What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Showcase Sports Show. I am your co-host, Griffin Conant, alongside my partner in crime here, Elijah Cornejo. How you doing, E?
I'm doing all right. I'm still recovering from our devastating and heartbreaking softball loss the other night.
I don't want to talk about it, but we're going to talk about it, because that's what we do on this show. We talk.
Griff, go ahead and give our listeners a little preview into what happened last Thursday.
Well, as many of you know, we play in an adult softball league Thursday nights. And let's just say I have never felt closer to victory and not achieved victory.
Just absolutely brutal.
Let me give you the little play-by-play, give you a little game breakdown. So we're in the bottom of the, fifth inning, I think it was?
It was last inning.
It was the last inning. It was do or die time for our Blake Street Bombers. And let's just say we were down 2 runs. I was on third base. There was a runner on first base. And one of our best hitters is coming to the plate. All with 2 outs. I think we're down 2 runs at this point, like I said. So things are looking up for the Blake Street Bombers, wouldn't you say? I mean, this is a good situation to be in.
At the time, yes.
Yes. But we are in a pandemic. And let me remind all of you folks at home, there are different rules this summer with our league. So a new rule this summer is that you can't touch home plate or the batter's box whatsoever.
Like when you're scoring.
When you're scoring. So when you're crossing home plate, they have a designated chalked line to the right side that you have to cross.
And it's constantly a force out. There's no more tags at the plate.
Right. So it's almost a whole new ball game at this point with these rules. So, men on first and third, 2 outs. We could win the game here. Our best hitter at the plate absolutely scorches one into the gap. I'm at third. I'm trying to get a good view on the ball, whether it's going to land or not.
Total piss missile.
It was a piss missile. And he drops the ball. He can't catch the ball, the right fielder. So I'm just, I could walk home if I wanted to.
Well, it wasn't even like he just dropped the ball. Like, he completely whiffed on it. So it goes whizzing past his head.
Right.
He lays out for it. It goes whizzing past his head. It's deep in the outfield at this point.
That had a little extra English on that ball.
It did.
I mean, I was proud of Happy. That's who's hitting at this point. His name is Happy. Shout out Happy. So he just absolutely rips the cover off the ball. Meanwhile, I'm kind of just doing my thing at the third base line, just kind of walking, jogging down the line. Well, I was so fixated on the ball that I didn't know my own surroundings and my own whereabouts. So I end up, guess what? Right smack down in the middle of the batter's box. And I didn't even touch home plate. I did everything in my power to kind of avoid it. But turns out you're out when you touch home plate too. So, and that was the third out, and we lost the game.
Well, okay, let's keep in mind the more devastating part here. You go in the batter's box, no one notices. The guy on first comes around and scores. Then, Happy, he's booking it, man, and he ends up scoring. So it's a walk-off. It's a walk-off. We're all starting to celebrate.
He was right behind me.
Right, and that's when the umpire calls off the game and goes, nope, first runner was inside the box. The runner is out, and that's the ball game, folks.
Right.
So we end up losing by 2 runs. Top 3 most devastating loss I've ever had.
I may or may not have yelled at the umpire. That poor man, he's just doing his job. I was in the heat of the moment, very frustrated. Like I said last episode, I predicted a win, going 1-6. Now we're 0-7. I'm getting mad just talking about it again.
You better stop.
Yeah, I think that's a wrap. That's pretty much all you need to know. It was just a nightmare.
Let's move on. College football. Lots to talk about. Keep in mind, things are changing a lot right now, but we are recording on Monday night. It's around 6:30 here. We expect some changes happening later in the night. Right now, actually, starting about 2 hours ago, the Big Ten, all of their representatives are meeting to make a decision on whether to play this season or not. They did take a vote earlier, I believe it was last week or maybe over the weekend, between all 14 Big Ten teams on if they should play or not. And it was unfortunately a 12-2 vote. 12 of the teams picking not to play. And the only 2 teams that wanted to play, according to our sources, are Nebraska and Iowa.
Okay. All right. Well, that's interesting. I think interesting enough. I think there's a lot of players that actually do want to play, no matter what these commissioners and what the NCAA is kind of suggesting at the moment. But yeah, like you said, Nebraska and Iowa, it looks like they want to play. Kind of what you were saying about the Big Ten. I believe the Pac-12 is supposed to make a decision Tuesday. That's Tuesday, August 11th. So a decision's looming there for the Pac-12 as well as the Big Ten. Definitely interesting to see what's going on. It's been a busy day. A lot of conflict is what it seems like.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to the Big Ten, I struggle with the choices by the athletic directors to vote against playing football because a lot of their players and coaches want to play. There's a hashtag going around called We Want to Play. Not only that, there's another one that we spoke about on our last episode called We Are United. So if anyone out there wasn't listening to our last episode, we went over the We Are United hashtag and kind of what that means. A lot of the players are banding together to fight for racial equality in college football. It's just a multitude of things. Racial equality, paying players, letting them earn money off of their own likeliness. Also things like legal representation, whether that's lawyers or agents, trying to figure out what the best move would be for them. Not only that, but I think the biggest piece for me is their safety with COVID going on. A lot of these schools and conferences aren't really doing a whole lot for the players. For example, like testing is not mandatory in a lot of places,
right?
Which that's just not realistic and that cannot happen. So I'm 100% behind the players for this. You have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, see what I think is interesting is there's this whole We Are United movement that's kind of going on. And what a lot of people don't know is that there's this whole other side of college football with these student athletes right now that actually do want to play. Kind of like what we were saying with the We Want to Play movement. Some of these student athletes, of course, the most notable, Trevor Lawrence, who will most likely be the number one pick if there is a draft this spring. Here's a quote from Trevor Lawrence via Twitter, and I quote, "People are at just as much, if not more risk if we don't play. Players will all be sent home to their own communities where social distancing is highly unlikely and medical care and expenses will not be placed on the families if they were to contract COVID-19. Not to mention the players coming from situations that are not good for them, their future, and having to go back to that. Football is a safe haven for so many people. We are more likely to get the virus in everyday life than playing football." And that's the end of the quote there. But I think Trevor Lawrence is onto something here. Because
he's spot on.
I do think that these players could end up being more safe at these universities instead of what these commissioners and what the NCAA is saying about all this. Trevor Lawrence has kind of given us a different look at things kind of from the point of view of a player.
Right. He's totally right, 100%. The part that really stuck out to me was when he said, not to mention the players coming from situations that are not good for them or their future and having to go back to that. I think that's really important because that's kind of being overlooked a lot right now. People are really focusing on COVID and them being safe, but a lot of these players are from really rough areas and they're going to go back and fall into just that lifestyle that they used to live in and that they've already worked so hard to get out of. Right. Now they're going to go right back in, fall back into it, and he's right with the social distancing, Who knows which of these players are really going to be able to be self-disciplined enough to really stay quarantined and stay away from that lifestyle.
Exactly. And, I think these sports are keeping a lot of kids out of trouble. What these universities and conferences, of course, the season's looking a little grim right now, but just kind of the things that they've been saying, what they would go through to keep these players safe, whether that includes the social distancing requirements, wearing a mask, frequent testing. So there's an argument to be made for these players to stay at these universities and play the sports that they play.
Everyone's kind of finding out about this new heart condition that's coming in after COVID in some cases called myocarditis. It's already affected, I believe, 5 Big Ten players.
Right.
I think it started with a Rutgers offensive lineman. I'm not positive about that. Essentially what it is it's a inflammation of the heart muscle, I guess, and it's just starting to be an after effect in some cases after COVID. And a lot of people are freaking out about it, and that's become kind of the new driving force behind canceling the season. Well, I kind of want to play devil's advocate here, and let's think about it with Trevor Lawrence, with what he said. If these players go home and get COVID, the same thing is going to happen. There's still a possibility that they get this new heart condition that's coming out. So if you can control the players and where they go, wouldn't that just be more beneficial? I mean, right. I think you got to play each conference, play it out as it's supposed to be, and monitor the players, track them, things like that, and really just hope that they stay healthy. But you got to keep it on a short leash.
Right.
If things start to get out of hand, that's when you got to call it, obviously. But I think you might as well try, because Trevor Lawrence is exactly right. They're going to go home and get it.
Right. Well, and I think the facts back up these coaches and these programs as well. I mean, for example, the University of Michigan up there, Harbaugh has stated that they've had 353 consecutive negative tests just when they're testing their players. He's also released a statement about the college football season And I quote, "I'm not advocating for football this fall because of my passion or our players' desire to play, but because of the facts accumulated over the last 8 weeks since our players returned to campus on June 13th. So there are facts behind these coaches and these programs that point to possibly playing football this fall. There might be a way. Nick Saban also quoted saying, "I know I'll be criticized no matter what I say, that I don't care about player safety. Look, players are a lot safer with us than they are running around at home. We have around a 2% positive ratio on our team since the 4th of July. It's a lot higher than that in society. We act like these guys can't get this unless they play football. They can get it anywhere, whether they're in a bar or just hanging out." And I think that's the truth. I think these coaches bring up valid points. Of course, COVID-19 is not a joke. They have to approach this in a way where that safety comes first and that the safety of these players is the most important thing out there. But this brings up a good argument, I think.
Right, I totally agree. And, a lot of people are saying that let the kids, cancel the season, let the kids go home, and if they get sick, it's their own fault, and it's all by choice. Well, let them make the choice to play.
Right.
If they want to play and take the risk, let them. And it sounds like the vast majority of players have worked way too hard not to play this year. This is ridiculous,
well,
you know?
And you even have President Trump tweeting about it, about how these college players have worked so hard and that they deserve the chance to play this season, So it's interesting to say the least. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the coming days as these decisions of these conferences take place, but it's definitely an interesting argument.
Right, and the Power 5 schools are going to really start to make their decisions this week, but the Mountain West and the MAC have already canceled football. And boy, let me tell you how devastated I am, okay? What am I going to do during the middle of my weeks now in fall when there's no more midweek action?
There's going to be a lot of boring Tuesday and Wednesday nights. I revolved my whole schedule watching those games.
That's one of my favorite American pastimes is watching, game action. Watching games like Toledo versus Central Michigan. I just love it.
Those are the games ESPN doesn't cover, and it's a shame. It is a shame. There's some good games on those Tuesday and Wednesday nights.
Gotta love it.
Nothing like it.
Gotta love it. Until next year.
All right, let's switch gears to the diamond here, E. It seems like every week we have an Astros-related brawl.
We got a hero alert.
Hero alert. It looks like Ramon Laureano is our hero of the week.
That's our new thing here on this pod, okay? Every time that someone fights the Asterix, they're, another name for the Astros.
You will be on the show if you do that.
Yeah, you're our new hero of the week.
Joe Kelly, Ramon Laureano. The list goes on.
Legends.
I'm hoping more players join that list this season.
So a little background on the Athletics and the Astros and Laureano.
This is some juicy stuff.
Laureano was actually a part of the Astros organization in 2017. He was traded to the Athletics for pitcher Brandon Bailey and some other pieces in the trade, of course. But Brandon Bailey was pitching on Sunday, and he ends up throwing a couple heaters in back-to-back at-bats and beaning Laureano, okay? The second time, Laureano was upset, and who knows, this could go down. This could just be deeper beef than we think it is.
True.
This could go down back to the trade. I don't know. Anyway, he gets beaned, then starts chirping at Bailey on his way to first base, and he ends up just going on to first, and right as he gets on the bag, you hear a lot of commotion on the telecast, and it sounds like it's coming from the Astros dugout, which it was. Then we get an alternate camera angle, and you do see what happens. Alex Cintrone, the hitting coach for the Astros, starts yelling at Laureano. They start chirping back and forth, and out of nowhere, Laureano books it to the dugout. Okay?
Yeah, something snapped. He just it's almost like he said something really bad, which I think he does.
Did.
Yeah, he does.
Well, okay, according to Laureano comes out after the game and says something about how Cintrone was actually targeting his mother and yelling things about his mother.
That's messed up, man.
So this is actually a quote to back up why Laureano charged him. And I quote, "They made the tough decision to let their own kid go to the States by himself and follow his dreams. I've been away from my family for 10 years, and it's been tough to be away from them. Any chance I have to be with them, I feel like I'm in heaven. So for him to say that to me about my mom, it doesn't sit well. I've got a fire inside me right away in that second."
Wow.
So it really obviously struck a nerve with Laureano. He books it straight at the dugout and tries to go and essentially fight Cintrone.
Yeah.
But imagine this, an Astro being a coward, and Cintrone sits there talking all of this gibberish at him, and then he sits there and hides behind his own players, and he's not going to throw hands. And if you're going to talk, you better be ready to back it up with the fists. It's just ridiculous.
Well, first off, not only do the Astros cheat
Cowards.
But they will also make fun of your mother and your family.
Cheating cowards.
I didn't think I could lose more respect for the Astros until now. Now they're making fun of his own mother. I'm sure Laureano's mother is an absolute saint.
Well, yeah, she raised a hero.
Right. You're right. This is a big honor being the hero on our show. So now everyone hates the Astros even more now, including myself.
Exactly. And, actually, this is also breaking news. We don't have any crap to talk about Rob Manfred this week.
Right.
Can you believe that?
We were shocked.
Yeah. Well, next week we'll have something because I guarantee he's probably going to suspend Laureano for like 37 games or something outrageous.
He has never gone more than 2 weeks without messing up.
Exactly.
That's a fact.
Yeah,
Go look it up.
Yep.
Go on to Wikipedia.
Fact check
That
us.
will say it. It will say it on there.
All right, Griff. Moving on, I have a bit of a hot take, a scalding take, if you will.
Hit me.
That's probably going to catch me a lot of flack for saying this, but I'm going to stand behind it because I really do believe it.
Do it. Burn me with it.
All right, Griff, who's the best player in baseball?
It's got to be Mike Trout, right? I
Absolutely.
think most people would say Mike Trout is the best player in baseball.
It is hands down Mike Trout.
Okay.
That's
yeah.
not my hot
I'm glad
take.
we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Pete.
It's not my hot take.
Okay.
My hot take does have to do with Mike Trout.
Okay.
So you know how baseball is declining pretty rapidly in
Right.
interest around the country? It's now sunk behind definitely football and probably basketball.
That's a whole nother topic, too, because that's a shame.
It is. And, the NHL is, it's right around there, too. Mm-hmm. I place the blame on multiple different people for the MLB declining in ratings and popularity. Okay? First of all, I place it on Manfred and the last commissioner, Seelig. I think they have a huge part to do with it. As commissioner, essentially your job is to, number one, manage the league, make sure things don't go haywire. Number two, spread the league. Get it to, the youth. And that's something that the NFL has done great with the NFL Play 60 and all of that. They reach the youth. Kids love football, okay? There's not a whole lot of kids nowadays that really love baseball. MLB has not done a very good job of reaching the younger communities and spreading the game, right?
Right.
Also, the NFL has something a lot more that the MLB does not. They have a lot more personalities. You think about it, you have Odell Beckham Jr., Tom Brady,
Right.
Antonio Brown,
Patrick
even though,
Mahomes.
right?
Yeah, all
Patty
these
Mahomes.
guys.
Even though AB is not, a perennial player anymore, and he's a head case, he's still a huge personality and
Right.
brings in popularity to the game. Like when he was in his prime, every kid that was a receiver wanted to be AB.
Right.
Now in the NFL, you have the new face of the league in Patrick Mahomes. Right.
Right.
Who's the face of the league in baseball?
Yeah. I mean,
It's-
you want to say Mike Trout, but
it's
like,
not. He's simply not. There's not one face in the league where you're like, wow, now that dude is the face of the league.
Yeah.
You have guys that obviously are popular like Aaron Judge, Cody Bellinger, people in big markets like that.
Right.
Mike Trout is in LA. He's in just as big a market as anybody. He's
Right.
in Los Angeles, California. It's the biggest you can go. And I don't want people thinking that I'm bagging on his character or who he is as a man because he's a very good person. He raises a lot for suicide awareness. Great guy, okay?
Right.
He needs to have more of a personality. And I can't help myself but put a little bit of the blame for not spreading baseball on Mike Trout. You're the best player in the league. You're up there for the best player ever. I mean, you're like Mickey Mantle reincarnated, but you cannot, you don't have a personality. You already made $420 million off your new deal, right? Why not be a billionaire and make all of these endorsement deals and stuff like that? Obviously he has them, but he could be so much louder and have more of a personality, be in the spotlight a little bit, Mike.
Yeah.
That's what I struggle with. Spread the game more to the youth. You're an amazing player, an amazing athlete. You're
Yeah.
as good as it gets in pro sports,
Well,
but you just don't have the personality.
I think this is a really interesting take, honestly, and it's a take that you don't really hear that much in sports. So
No one talks
I'm
about it.
glad you brought this up because Mike Trout, of course, hands down, I think is the best player in baseball. Of course,
Hands down.
I think you go down the street and ask a random person who Mike Trout is. I think many of them probably wouldn't be able to tell you who Mike Trout is, and I think that is very
If
concerning.
you're not a baseball fan,
Right.
you truly probably don't know
Right.
who Mike Trout is.
Everyone knows who LeBron James is. Everyone knows who
My-
Tom Brady is.
Exactly.
Mike Trout is just as good as those players. He's a Hall of Famer, first ballot. Could be, if he continues on this career path that he's on, one of the greatest baseball players to ever live.
Name a more silent MVP. There's not
yeah,
one.
I couldn't
There's
do
no
it.
one more quiet and put away and sheltered than Mike Trout. I hate to say it, but that's just the truth. That's a cold, hard truth.
I would say Bryce Harper's got he has more of a grip on the league than Mike Trout does, and that's unfortunate.
Well, Bryce Harper was supposed to be Mike Trout, okay?
Right.
Mike Trout was never supposed to be this good. He was obviously a first-round pick. I think picked 24th in that draft by the Angels.
Right.
But he was never supposed to be as good as he is today. Coming out of high school, Bryce Harper was already regarded as the best player to ever play. Okay? He's honestly actually let a lot of people down. He's let me down. I'm a huge Harper fan. I still like him. Don't get me wrong. He's still very good. But he's not the best player ever like he was supposed to be.
Right.
He was like Tiger Woods, growing up. He was like a phenom. Okay?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He was supposed to be the guy.
He was like LeBron. He was like LeBron James.
Exactly. He was supposed to be the guy that brought baseball back to life.
Yeah.
Well, now Mike Trout has taken that crown from him, and he's not doing it. He's dropping the ball. I blame Mike Trout. I blame Rob Manfred, and I blame Bud Selig. All three of them are huge parts of the fault of baseball really not being very big in the country anymore.
Yeah, well, shoot, there you have it. Just when you thought we weren't going to bag on Rob Manfred this episode, we do. So,
got to do it.
Once again, come back next week for another...
We hate Manfred.
So tune in next week for another torch fest of Rob Manfred. Well, and some other breaking news around Major League Baseball. Madison Bumgarner is washed up, unfortunately. He just got placed on the 10-day IL with a back strain. This guy's struggling, Madison Bumgarner, he's got a 9.35 ERA right now with a 1.56 whip. He's given up 13 runs his last 2 starts. He hasn't even yet to pitch 6 innings so far this year for the Diamondbacks. And of course, the Diamondbacks signed him to a 5-year, $85 million deal in the offseason. Bumgarner, he's 30 years old right now, but this has got to be concerning for the Diamondbacks. That's a lot of money to be spending on a player. What are your thoughts on Madison Bumgarner? Are his best days behind him?
Well, if you're a Diamondbacks fan, you're definitely hoping that he's really injured with that back strain.
Right.
Because that means hopefully he'll get healthy and go back to what he once was. In my opinion, I never liked this signing from the beginning. I don't know. I just think that's a high payment for a guy that hasn't been himself the last year or two.
Right.
I wouldn't have done it personally. I think obviously it'll get a little bit better, but I don't think that he'll ever return to his former self. So I don't know. Yeah. I'm not a big fan, and I don't have a whole lot of hope over there for the Diamondbacks. And Bumgarner.
Yeah, you're talking about a guy in Madison Bumgarner who could very well be a future Hall of Famer. I mean, he single-handedly won the Giants some World Series. Oh, absolutely. He single-handedly won the Giants a World Series back in 2014. So, I mean, I think the Diamondbacks are hoping to get that kind of guy back, but I just don't know if that's possible. I think his best days might be behind him.
I think so. He's exactly what you don't want to see because you see guys like Scherzer. How old is he now? 33, 34, something like that.
Yeah.
He's only getting better. He's still at his peak.
Yeah.
Father Time should be catching up with him right now, and it's just not.
Of course, it's still early for Bumgarner, but I mean, in a 60-game season, the Diamondbacks need him right now. That back strain could really be bothering him, but like I said, Bumgarner's got to be better for Arizona.
He absolutely has to be. I mean, Arizona right now is just off to a pretty rough start, too. What's the record right now?
I think they're 6-10, I think. So
you're right.
I think they're last place in the division right now. So Diamondbacks fans, hang in there. It is a long season, not really, but hopefully Bumgarner can come back and come to form.
On a more serious note, news out of L.A. with the Angels. Charges have been pressed against a former employee for distributing drugs to former pitcher Tyler Skaggs, who passed away in a team hotel in Dallas when they were playing the Rangers last year. Super sad story. Turns out he thought he was taking oxycodone, and he mixed it with alcohol, but unfortunately with that, there was fentanyl in it, and he ended up passing away. You're seeing a lot more fentanyl deaths across the United States. I believe it's up to 30,000 a year annually now. Honestly, a lot of celebrities, Mac Miller, guys like that, unfortunately passing away due to these circumstances. So I guess it's good for the Skaggs family. We're seeing a little bit of justice over there, but it's just really a sad situation for the Angels, for the Skaggs family, for the baseball community, for everybody. Let's head back to the ice now. The NHL going into the playoffs. Playoffs start tomorrow, which is Tuesday, the 11th. First series we got coming up, the number 1 seed, the Vegas Golden Knights versus the 8 seed Chicago Blackhawks. This is a very intriguing series. And the Blackhawks are not supposed to be here. They ended up pulling off an upset against the Oilers and sliding into that 8 spot. Right here, I think I'm going to lead it off with some predictions. I believe that the Golden Knights are going to win in 5 games. They're back to full health. They get Pacioretty back. He was quarantining. Not only that, I think that the Knights are vastly improved from last year. just based off the experience that happened in the playoffs last year. They were up 3-1 on the Sharks in the first round, and they ended up choking and losing in Game 7 for an early first-round exit. I think that's going to add a lot of playoff experience. They know what it's like to lose now, and I just can't see them losing the series.
Yeah, I got Vegas as well, except I got them winning in 6 games. I think Chicago... They were playing well in the qualifying round against Edmonton, but don't sleep on these Blackhawks. They have a lot of playoff experience between Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane, Duncan Keith, those kind of guys. They've won 3 Stanley Cups in the past, so I wouldn't sleep on Chicago, but I think Vegas has a really good team, and I think they take it in 6. I think the X factor for the Knights has got to be Mark Stone. He's second on Vegas in points with 63. This guy is going to be key for the Knights to move on to the second round.
Absolutely. I really think I agree with you there. He's going to be huge. Moving on, the second seed, Colorado Avalanche versus the 7th seed, the Arizona Coyotes. Wow, what a series it was for the Coyotes. Knocking off the Predators. They came out real hot. They're definitely a team that's on fire. I really like the Avalanche in this series, though. I like them in 6. I think the Coyotes will give them a run for their money, but I just don't know that they're going to be able to stop McKinnon and Rantanen and Cale Makar and guys like that. I just think that the Avs are too deep for them, and I think they're going to finish them off in 6.
Yeah, like you said, I got the Avs as well, except I got them winning in 5. I think the Avs are that good. They got the speed to win a Stanley Cup. But hey, the Coyotes, they've had a good season. I think a big part of their success is because of Darcy Kemper. This guy was absolutely stellar for the Coyotes against the Predators. In the qualifying round, Kemper had, I think, a .950 save percentage in that series. He was lights out. But the Coyotes are going to need dudes like Derek Stepan and Connor Garland to step up in order to win this series.
Absolutely. Again, I think this is kind of the Avalanche and their series to lose. Going into the third series, we have the Dallas Stars and the Calgary Flames, the number 3 and the number 6 seed. The Stars go into this series actually winning the season series against the Flames 2-1. One of the wins was actually in overtime. But in this restart, the Stars have been outscored 10-5. In the round-robin games. They got absolutely shellacked by the Avalanche, okay? They got shellacked, and...
That's an understatement.
Exactly. The Flames goalie right now, Cam Talbot, he is killing it. And the Stars goalie, Bishop, he's day-to-day. He's got some injuries he's battling with. I don't know. I just kind of like the way that it's fallen into the Flames' hands here. I think they're going to pull off the upset.
Yeah, I actually have the Stars winning this series. I think they're going to take it in 6. They didn't play very well, obviously, in the round-robin. But I think this series is going to come down to goaltending. Ben Bishop for the Stars. I think he's one of the league's best goaltenders, but he's also day-to-day right now, so if he can't get on the ice, then this series could be a toss-up. But if Bishop is out there, I think Dallas takes it.
The last series in the West, we have the St. Louis Blues and the Vancouver Canucks. In this one, I have the Canucks with the upset, actually. This is kind of a shocking pick for a lot of people. The Blues went 0-3 in the round robin, and then the Canucks came out and smacked the Wild right in the mouth.
Right.
They lost Game 1 in the qualifying round, and then they ended up going on a 3-0 run to take the series. I just think that right now, the Blues are at their lowest point, the Canucks are at their highest point. But, you go into the season series, Vancouver is 2-0-1 against St. Louis, and St. Louis is 1-1-1. So, Vancouver's already got the leg up in regular season play. I just think, honestly, it comes down to the Blues, Tarasenko, and O'Reilly. I think they're the 2 key players for the entire matchup.
Right.
If they go out and ball out like they did in last year's playoffs, when they won the Cup, I think it's kind of their series to lose, obviously, but I really just think that the Canucks are going to steal this one from them in 6.
Well, I like the Canucks a lot, but I got to take St. Louis in this series in 7. St. Louis really struggled in the round robin. They were outscored 6-0 in those 3 games. But I tell you what, it's the Blues. They're the defending champs. I think if they just go back to how they played during the season, I think they'll be just fine.
So coming off that Blues win then, who do you have coming out of this conference?
It's hard not to choose the Colorado Avalanche. I think they have everything in them to make a deep Stanley Cup run here. But like I said, Vegas is good, Dallas is good. All these teams are good, but I really do think Colorado, with their depth and speed, and they have Nathan McKinnon, and I think if you have a guy like that, then I think in crunch time, you could really win some big games.
Absolutely. I have to agree here. The Avs are my pick as well, but not very far behind them. I have the Vegas Golden Knights. I really like what I saw out of them in the round robin. And now they have Pacioretty back. He's one of their best players, if not their best player. He's awesome, and I really like Vegas too.
It's going to be fun to watch in this Western Conference with all these teams at full strength.
Absolutely. Headed over to the East Coast now. With the first matchup with the number 1 seed, you have the Philadelphia Flyers versus Montreal. I really like the Flyers in this series. I would not be surprised if this was a clean sweep, or at least out of 5. I'll go with Flyers in 5. But you know what, man, there's not a hotter team in the league right now other than the Flyers. They, in the whole entire round robin tournament, they never trailed.
Wow.
They didn't trail 1 minute.
That's crazy.
Yeah. They went obviously 3-0, got the clean sweep. But yeah, I think they're going to keep that winning streak up and take out the Habs in 5.
Well, I'll tell you what, E. I think this is going to be a close series. But I do have the Flyers in 7 games, actually. I think the Canadians make this series close, and I'll tell you why. It's going to come down to the goaltending. Between rookie Carter Hart and veteran Carey Price, this is going to be key because Hart's been playing well, but Carey Price does have that experience, of course. But also a thing to be on the lookout for is the power play lines. It was just absolutely miserable for Philadelphia and Montreal. The Flyers went 0 for 11 in the power play in the round robin, and the Canadians went 0 for 12 against Pittsburgh. So this is going to be big. I mean, if these teams want to win, they got to do better in the power play.
I totally agree. I really agree with your goaltending prediction and your power play. The rookie's going to have a lot of pressure on his back. Going into our second matchup in the East, we have the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Columbus Blue Jackets. This matchup is very, very familiar from last year. If anybody remembers, Tampa Bay was number 1 seed, and the Blue Jackets were the 8th seed. The Jackets pulled off a monumental upset.
Crazy.
They swept them.
It was stunning.
Yep, Tampa Bay didn't even get 1 game in there.
Right.
So, here I really think the Blue Jackets have their number again. I'm calling a ginormous upset again.
Back-to-back years.
Back-to-back years. Honestly, I put a lot of it on the shoulders of Stamkos and Victor Hedman.
Okay.
It sounds like they're both going to be at least missing at the beginning of the series.
Okay.
Possibly more throughout the entire series. We're not sure. Tampa Bay coach came out and said that Stamkos is out indefinitely. He was questionable for the last round robin game against the Flyers. But now, he's saying he's out indefinitely, so we're not really sure when he's going to come back. He's got a lower body injury. With Hedman, he twisted his ankle in the round robin, and he's looking doubtful for game 1 at least as well. Griff, who do you got there?
I got Tampa Bay in this one. I just do not see them losing back-to-back years to the Blue Jackets. I think last year was really honestly a wake-up call for Tampa Bay, and I don't think they make that same mistake again. Guys like Nikita Kucherov, these kind of guys, I just don't see it happening again.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely see where you're coming from. I would definitely not be surprised if Tampa Bay pulls off the series win. Moving on, we have next the Capitals and the Islanders. I really think that this is going to be a really close series. They split the series in the regular season 2-2. Very evenly matched teams, honestly. I really do think that the Capitals are going to pull it out, and I just think that's because they're going to lean on their vets like Ovechkin, TJ Oshie, Backstrom, Kovalchuk, those guys. I think they're all going to play a big factor, and I think they're going to move on.
Yeah, once again, I think I'm going to have to disagree with you here. I actually have the Islanders taking this one in 7, so I do have it as a close series, but I think the Islanders are just playing good hockey right now. Former Avalanche goalie Semyon Varlamov, of course, goaltending over there in New York now, but I just think the Islanders are set up to pull off this upset against the Capitals. Guys like Jordan Eberle, I think he's going to be kind of that X factor for the Islanders. And a guy like Adam Pelech, who's returning from injury, that's going to really help this Islanders team in the playoffs.
Our last matchup out east is the Boston Bruins and the Carolina Hurricanes. This one I think is also going to be a really good series. The Bruins are really not performing to their expectations right now. They went winless in the round-robin tournament. And then the Hurricanes came out and got the 3-game sweep over the Rangers. So it's kind of 2 teams going in 2 separate directions right now. I really do think that this is going to be a close series. Go to Game 7. I got the Boston Bruins. I just think Zdeno Chara, Tuukka Rask, and Bergeron are just going to be too much to handle for the Hurricanes.
Well, E, I'm in a disagreeing mood tonight, and I'm going to take the Carolina Hurricanes in 7 here. I think the Hurricanes are in an interesting situation here. I know the Bruins are kind of set on goalie with Tuukka Rask, but the Hurricanes are actually playing 2 guys right now. They're both playing really well. It's going to be a difficult decision for Carolina to make, and whenever you can go 13 for 14 on the penalty kill like they did against New York, they could win any game they play. So I think they have a pretty good shot against the Bruins. So, E, we talked about the Western Conference a little bit. Who do you have coming out of the East?
I really think the Flyers have all the momentum right now. And, in the NHL playoffs, a lot of it is about momentum and who can get hot at the right time. So I really think the Flyers are going to take the conference. What about you, Griff?
I got to go Tampa Bay. I got to roll with the Lightning. I think what they went through last year is really going to motivate them for success in this playoffs.
Especially if they can get Stamkos back. I think that's going to be a huge addition.
Yes, absolutely. And last but not least here, let's head to the hardwood for some NBA talk. How about the Phoenix Suns? I know they're getting a lot of attention right now, currently undefeated in the bubble.
On fire.
They're sizzling right now. 6-0, and they have a pretty good shot of maybe making that 8-9 series game. What have you seen from the Suns that has impressed you?
Man, Devin Booker right now, he's just on another level. He's exactly who I thought he was. He's just that pure scoring guard.
Yeah.
That he's just the man. And, Ayton's been playing a lot better. He gives them that big presence in the paint. I don't know. They're just clicking on all cylinders right now, and it is the perfect time to be doing that. I really think they're going to slide into that 9 spot.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is just an exciting time for the Phoenix Suns. I think they're just playing well. I actually, if you remember a couple episodes ago, I had them as one of my most disappointing teams, actually.
Yep.
So they have made me a believer here in the bubble. But yeah, who do you kind of have them playing in that 8-9 seed playoff series?
I got the Blazers. I think that's going to be a great series between the Blazers and the Suns. Ultimately, I think that, I don't know who's going to come out on top, but I really think actually the Blazers are, unfortunately. I think Dame and McCollum are just too much to handle right now. How about you?
Yeah, I like the Blazers as well. I think what they're doing right now in the bubble with Lillard, he's just on a mission. I think he dropped 51 points last game, something like that. But, of course, we do have the Grizzlies and the Spurs right now in contention. So don't count them out yet as well.
They both have pretty tough schedules coming up, don't they?
Yeah, so Memphis right now, they play Boston and then Milwaukee to kind of wrap up their bubble schedule there. And then you got the Spurs who are playing the Rockets and Jazz. So those are 2 tough remaining schedules there for the Grizzlies and Spurs. Meanwhile, the Suns play the Sixers and then the Mavericks. Blazers play Mavericks Nets. So I think the schedule definitely sets up for the Suns and Blazers.
I think so.
Well, we also had some NBA drama on Saturday that occurred between the Trailblazers and Clippers.
Yes, we love drama.
Yes, drama is always alive in the NBA when we're talking about Patrick Beverley. In case you missed it, the Blazers missed 2 critical free throws. Damian Lillard was at the line, and Paul George and Patrick Beverley were caught on the bench celebrating these 2 missed free throws.
Not just celebrating, kind of making fun of Dame.
Yes, they weren't just celebrating, they were poking fun at Dame, and Dame was not having it after the game. Here's a clip of Damian Lillard talking to the media after the game via NBA on ESPN.
Let me say this. For one, I know what happened. I expect myself to make those free throws, and I didn't when my team needed it, which was a failure for me that I can accept. But asking me about Patrick Beverley, who I sent him home before at the end of a game. Paul George just got sent home by me last year in the playoffs. So they know that the reason they're reacting like that is because of what they expect from me, which is a sign of respect, and it just shows what I've done at a high clip more times than not. So I'm not offended by it. If anything, it should just tell you how much it hurt them to go through what I put them through in those situations previously.
So Bleacher Report actually posted the same exact remarks from Lillard, and in the comments section, things got a little wild and out of control. Pat Beverley comments, Cancun on 3, with a bunch of laughing faces.
Okay.
And then Paul George writes, and you getting sent home this year, laughing face, respect.
Wow.
Then Lillard then fired back and said, keep switching teams, running from the grind. You boys is chumps.
Wow, that's harsh.
After that, Damian Lillard's sister, Lene Lillard, then got involved.
The family's getting involved at this point, and that's when you know it's serious.
Exactly. This is getting out of hand now.
At this point, Lene is mad.
So this is no longer just an NBA beef, okay? This is turning into NBA family beef.
This is like the Laureano mom thing again.
Exactly,
except
all over
it's
again.
Dame's sister, Lene.
Right. So Lene comes in hot, okay? She comes in hot and said, and I quote, I said earlier I was going to let that whole Paul George shit go, and Patrick Beverley, cause everybody know how my mouth is, how my mouth can get. Okay, that was footage via NBA Central Daily. She also then finished it off with the cherry on top, I quote,
"Oh no,
because you can't talk, you got a hoe stripper pregnant."
Whoa!
She's then talking. Okay, so those comments are about Paul George and his apparently hoe stripper girlfriend.
Wow. So now it's getting personal.
It is. It's getting real
wow.
personal. And that girlfriend, her name is Daniela Rajic. Okay, she comes in response to Lene's comments and says, "Somebody come get this cow."
Oh, now that's just not very nice. She
called her
I
don't
know.
She wasn't very nice when Lene called her a hoe stripper.
Well, it's not nice on both sides.
Things are just getting out of hand.
I don't think she wanted to be called a cow.
So I can't imagine that Paul George and, Dame Lillard saw it getting this out of hand with the sister and the girlfriend getting into it. So I don't know. This is some interesting beef. And now you got to hope that the Blazers slip in the playoffs and end up facing the Clippers, because I'd love to see this play out on the court,
There's nothing like some good NBA drama, but hey, seriously, much respect to Damian Lillard and just how he kind of, approached everything here. He's pretty much calling PG out for being a team switcher, pretty much is what he's saying. But I think his comments, even in the interview,
I love the comments.
It's so hard not to respect the guy, because he just wants to win. And in a day of age in the NBA where it's all about the super teams and all that kind of stuff, Dame isn't about that. He wants to compete against the best and beat the best.
I totally agree. With his comments in the clip that we played, he takes a real negative situation and turns it into a positive situation. Now, of course, all of that was probably ruined by the Instagram remarks.
Yeah.
But in the interview, he handled it right. He handled it the right way. I have the utmost respect for Dame. He's one of my favorite players in the league. Yeah, gotta love it.
And some tough news out of Philadelphia, of course. Ben Simmons out for the season with a knee injury. That is just absolutely crushing for the 76ers. This is a team that had championship aspirations, so this is a just tough blow to that team. Also, Joel Embiid injured his ankle. He's going to be out tomorrow night, Tuesday. That's August 11th, Tuesday against the Suns. What do you think about that? Do you think the Sixers are in deep trouble here?
Absolutely. Those are their two best players. It's as simple as that. Ben Simmons, since he's toast for the year now, that leaves a huge void that's got to be filled. So now if you're the Sixers here, you really want to see Matisse Thybulle embrace the role, step up, and be able to take it over with some authority. But yeah, the Embiid injury, it sounds like it's an ankle and he's like day-to-day, so he'll probably be back for the playoffs.
Doesn't sound as serious. But
right, but Embiid's history, man.
Right.
That guy gets injured, and who knows? He could be out forever.
Right, and with a thing like an ankle too, that's going to linger.
Yeah,
and
it's a lingering injury.
This is the biggest time of the year right now in the NBA, just with the playoffs going on. So he's not going to be 100%.
Not a great time for the Sixers.
Alrighty, how about some notable games to watch for this week?
Yeah, on the 13th, we have the Suns and Mavericks. That's going to be a huge game for that 9th seeding, or the 8th and 9th, actually, for the Suns, and whether the Mavericks are going to move up or down in that top 6.
Okay, and I got the Braves versus Yankees on Wednesday night. That's going to be the second game of that 2-game series. Both teams playing pretty well right now, both at the top of their leagues in the AL and NL. So that should be a fun one, little interleague matchup. And of course, you have the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs starting on Tuesday. That'll be lasting all week long. I think that's going to do it from us. Any closing thoughts, E?
Yeah, follow us on Instagram at Showcase Sports Media. Check out our website at showcasesportsmedia.com. That's all I got, and a big thank you to our listeners.
That's going to be a wrap. Cheers from the Showcase Sports Show. We'll see you next week.